to accomplish God's purpose for humankind. But just as God has declared it is not good for man to be alone, seemingly in the same breath, He offers and prefers upon Adam a divine remedy when He declares, I will make him a helper fit for him. I will make him a helper fit for him. The word that is translated in your English version, helper, in the Hebrew is the word azer. It's the word azer. And it means literally one who aids, or one who helps, or one who comes alongside. Now, the use of this term in the Hebrew was never a demeaning, it was never used as a demeaning or a servile term. In our misogynistic pockets of misogynistic cultures in this country, oftentimes the woman is looked down upon as being something of a servant and being somehow beneath the man. But that is not what Moses is communicating here when he says that God declares, I will make a helper or an azer fit for Adam. In fact, this is powerful. This term azer is often, in fact, 16 out of the 19 times that it's used in the Old Testament, this term is used of God as the mighty helper of Israel. I want to show you a couple of passages here where this same term is used, and you will recognize both of these passages very readily. You remember when Moses was rejoined with his family after God had delivered the nation of Israel out of Egypt, and he rejoined his wife and his sons in Exodus chapter 18 and verse 4, it tells us the names of Moses' sons. And one of them was named, and the name of the other was Eleazar. And there's your term, azer, in the Hebrew. And why was he named Eleazar? Listen to this. For he said, the God of my father was my help. Remember, the name has substantive meaning in the Old Testament. The God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. The name Eleazar is taken from the name El, which means the mighty character of God, and Azer, which means helper. This is the same term that Moses chooses to use under the inspiration of the Spirit in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, when he says, God said, I will make a helper, an Azer, fit for Adam. Again, we see this same term used in 1 Samuel chapter 7 when God has given the nation of Israel victory over the Philistines. Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Shin and called its name Ebenezer. We may pronounce it wrong. We pronounce it Ebenezer. It may be better pronounced Ebenezer. It's a compound again. Eben meaning rock, and Azer meaning helper. In fact, this is the phrase, this is the idea that is often communicated in the psalm, Carl, when the psalmists speak of Christ, our God, as being the rock of our salvation. He is the rock of our help. He is the rock of our strength. This is the same term Moses uses concerning the helper that God is going to create for man. Moses, or rather man's helper, is not going to be a weak sister, not going to be some inferior creature, but is going to be an able and a comparable helper for Adam. The Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 9 acknowledges here that neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman was created for the man. The woman was created as man's able helper to advance the dominion of God and the glory and the worship of God in His creation. There's also a further subtlety here, I think, that is often missed in the exposition of this passage. When God said, I will make him an helper fit for him. The idea that is being communicated when Moses says that this helper will be fit for Adam is the idea of this helper's suitability. The idea that this helper is one who is suitable to Adam and who is comparable to Adam. It's communicating in the Hebrew that there is an equality and an adequacy in this helper. This helper, just like Adam, is going to bear the image of the Creator. But there's more than that in this term in the Hebrew. It means, if you translate it literally, it means that God is going to give him an helper that is like opposite him. A helper that is like opposite him, or even more literally, according to his opposite. What is the writer saying here? He is going to create, God is going to create for Adam his corresponding counterpart, his matching opposite. He's going to create a helper that is going to complete Adam. A helper that is going to supply that which is lacking in Adam. A comparable, suitable, fit helper. Her function as a helper was going to be complementary to man. She was going to complete that which was lacking in man. You know, and I've tried to remember the name of the movie, and I cannot remember it. But there was a movie back several years ago in which Jack Nicholson was pursuing Helen Hunt as his interest. And they were sitting over a candlelight dinner, and he was struggling to express his affection for her. And at one point he just stumbled and fumbled and stuttered, and he finally just looked at her and said, "You complete me." And I thought, wow, that might be the best romantic one-liner I've ever heard. And you know, not that they would have had any cognizance of this at all, but that's actually very scriptural. When God gives us a wife, when He gives us our helper, she completes us as men, does she not? Does she not supply that which is lacking in us? That's the idea that is communicated here when the Scripture says that God said, I will make an helper fit for Adam. The Apostle Paul again in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 11 says, "Nevertheless, in the Lord the woman is not independent of the man, nor is the man independent of the woman." Do you see that concept there? That there is a necessity in this union where the one is dependent upon the other and the one completes the other. So God created man. He created the first man. He created Adam in such a way that he was in need of the help of a partner. As one aspiring poet wrote to his wife, "Treasured and virtuous wife of mine, more valued than rich jewels thee. O fit companion, faithful helper, thou art a gift from God unto me." Treasured and virtuous wife of mine, more valuable